come into sitting, and for you that might mean that you're sitting on a chair. I'm just sitting up on a block. If you have a bolster or a stack of blankets or pillows available, I always like to suggest having your hip points, the top of your hips, higher than your knees. So if your knees are way up here, it's likely that you're rounding through your back, which means you're putting strain on your back muscles. So if you can get yourself up a little bit higher, so your knees kind of come down below the top of your hips, that's going to bring your pelvis into more of a neutral position and take some of that strain and effort out of the back. And if you're sitting, you could even sit on your hands and give yourself a wiggle and see if you can feel your sitting bones grounded on whatever surface you're sitting on. Okay. So that's same if you're on a chair or sitting on the floor or whatever it is. And if it's more comfortable to have one leg out or both legs out, know that that isn't okay option as well. So I thought I might teach you something a little bit different. I don't think I've taught you this yet, and maybe I have. Sometimes I forget week to week everything that we've gone through. But this is a vagus nerve exercise, and so it works at the nerves that are coming down from the base of our skull down to different parts of our body. And so I'll guide you through this, but the reason I'm sharing it is it can have a very nice calming effect. It might feel subtle, you might not notice it, but in my experience, I find it can be calming. And it also helps to improve the range of motion of our neck. And our vagus nerve also innervates our upper traps. So that tension and tightness that we're always trying to stretch out and trying to get rid of, you can't really get rid of it by stretching. But in my experience, I found that doing the vagus nerve practice regularly on a daily basis, sometimes even more than once a day, because I'm like that, it's helped kind of relieve that chronic tension and tightness. So you can either take my word for it or you can try it out yourself. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So either in sitting or standing, we're going to turn our head to one side, and you're just going to note what your range of motion is. Like, where does your head stop? Where is there tension, tightness? Is there discomfort anywhere? So we're just kind of noticing what our baseline is. Your chin might not come all the way to your shoulder. That's likely. And then we'll come back to center, and then turn your head to the other side. And you can double check each side again, and you might note if the chin has a tendency to drop down or lift up as you go to the side. I kind of notice as I go to the right, my chin lifts, and that's just a compensation my body has because I don't have my full range right now. So check each side, just see what you notice. Okay, and then we're going to start in the center. So you're going to keep your head looking forward, and then you're going to take your eyes as far right as you can. So you can even bring your finger from your nose and bring it out to the right. So you're using both eyes and looking as far right as you can. And you're going to keep your gaze to the right until you experience a relaxation response. And this can be different for everyone. For me, it's a yawn. Some people, it could be a sigh or a gulp. And this will just happen automatically. And it might be quick or it might take a minute or two. So don't rush through it if you're not experiencing your yawn or your gulp or your sigh right away. Just keep looking to the right. And when you experience it, then you're going to let the eyes come back to center. And if you're still waiting, that's okay. I'm going to keep going, and you can follow along as you hit each of the kind of milestones. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So the eyes are going to look as far to the left without turning your head. And you're going to wait for your relaxation response. And I found over time, the more that I do it, the faster typically it occurs. So at the beginning, it might take a little bit longer, especially if this is your first time doing it. So after you've completed both sides, then turn your head again to the right and then to the left and see what you notice. You might notice that you can turn your head a little bit further, or there might be a little bit more ease. Okay, so that is the basic exercise for vagus nerve, but we're going to take it up a notch. So when you're ready, we're going to drop the right ear towards the right shoulder. So shoulders don't hike up, just keep them nice and relaxed. Ear towards the shoulder. And now your eyes are going to look down towards the floor, so towards your right thigh. And again, we're going to wait for that yawn or that sigh or the gulp, whatever your relaxation response is. And then after you've experienced it, bring your head back up to center. And we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So take as much time as you need. When the head goes to the left, you're going to look down towards the left thigh. And I do realize I'm going a little bit quick just because I can't see where everybody's at right now, but please take your time. And when you've completed both sides, turn your head side to side and notice your range of motion. This is usually when people start to comment that they feel like an owl. And I know that some might need a little bit more time. You still might be with the eyes or the head side to side. That's okay. I'll show you a third variation on this. And if you're just on the first one or the second one, that's okay too. So it's the same setup as the second one, the right ear towards the right shoulder, but this time instead of looking down, we're going to look up to the left. And so it's the same idea. Oh, there's my yawn right away. Waiting for your relaxation response. And then we'll do the same thing on both sides. So when you're ready, the left ear towards the left shoulder and looking up to the right. And if it, for some reason, if it hurts your eyes, it just might mean you're trying to look too far into your peripheral. And just let your gaze soften a little bit further out where you can hold your gaze. All right. And then once that's completed, you can do your little test again, turning your head side to side. And notice what your experience is like. Okay, so that's an easy one that you can kind of pepper into your day. You can do it in the morning or in the afternoon. It doesn't matter. You can do it as many times as you'd like. There's no side effects from that. And then if you're all caught up, maybe we start to gently slide your shoulder blades up and down your back. And notice what that feels like. I can tell already that some of the tension has kind of gone away in my upper back and my neck. And then maybe linking movement and breath, inhaling the blades up and exhaling them down. And maybe starting to notice what it feels like to initiate the movement from your shoulder blades as opposed to your arms. Sometimes we draw the upper arms up and back and we do this kind of shoulder circle thing. But what happens if you move the blades? It's kind of like they slide up and forward and then back and down. And if you want, we can add on to that. So inhale the blades up, and then as you exhale, squeeze the blades together and release them down. I'll try that a few times. Beautiful. All right, we'll let our shoulders relax. And let's just go into a little bit of side bending. So with an inhale, gently bend to one side and let the arm come up into the air. And then exhale back to center and inhale, bending to the other side. So you can play with your arm position. It might be that it's appropriate to keep the arms down. Maybe they come up part way. Maybe they come up all the way. Let's see if you can find a range that's pain-free, where you don't start to feel pinching through the shoulder. Note if your sitting bones stay grounded on the surface that you're sitting on, or are they lifting as you bend to the side? If they're lifting, consider that you might be going a little, you're not getting as much side bend as you could be because the hips are moving. Let's do one more to each side. Beautiful, and then we'll meet in center. And we'll keep linking movement and breath as we go through some rotation. So with an inhale, the arms will come up, and exhale, rotate to one side, bringing the arm across and the other arm back. And then inhale to center, and exhale to the other side. You can also do this without the hands. So you decide what's going to work best for you right now. And I'll do each side again. Good. And then we'll meet in center. Okay, I'm going to scooch myself back so I can bring my legs out in front, and we're going to focus on the ankles a bit. So you can keep yourself popped up if you want. Actually, I might do that. Okay. And it's okay if the knees are bent. So we're going to focus on the ankles a little bit. So we're going to slide your heels back towards your bum and point your toes. And then we're going to flex the opposite way. So you're going to slide your heels away from you and draw your toes towards you. But instead of initiating the movement through the toes, think of the movement more coming through the heel or through the ankle. So just start and see what happens. And if you feel like your toes are really getting involved or really moving around a lot, what happens if you make your movement a little bit smaller? So we want the ankles to strengthen. And if our toes are doing all the work, then the ankles aren't doing the work. That makes sense, right? And if your toes are really, really active, you'll know exactly what I mean, because trying to make the movement smaller will be really challenging. Good. And then we can let that rest. And let's explore taking the feet side to side. And so the knees shouldn't be moving and the legs shouldn't be rolling side to side. And so you might just start maybe with just the one foot at a time if you're having a hard time connecting to it. Again, quiet toes, they're just along for the ride. So you can do one at a time or both sides at the same time. And just see what you notice. So the legs are pretty quiet. If you feel a lot of clicking or crunching in your ankles, you could always make the movement a little bit smaller as well. And that's just going to help your overall mobility, and eventually that clicking and crunching will just stay away, but it just takes a little bit of practice. So after you've done that a few times, now we can start to take the ankles in circles. So same idea, if the toes are really kind of doing something, what happens if you just do one at a time and go a little bit smaller? And it could be, if your heel is on the floor, it could be more challenging. So you could lift your leg, or I've just crossed my legs here. And that does feel a little bit more accessible, not having the heel on the floor. And you can try circling a few times in both directions. And then make sure you do both sides. So if you're doing them one at a time, switch. Sometimes small movements can be really good, especially if our joints, or if our, if we're not quite, if the body is not doing the movement that we want, we can go smaller and kind of build up to it incrementally. That can be super, super helpful. Okay, now let's come up to standing as we have been sitting. And let's do just a little bit more with our feet, but let's bring our feet hip distance apart, feeling into the 3 points of our feet, the center of the heel, the base of the big toe, and the base of the baby toe. And notice what that feels like. So we've been practicing this for a few weeks now. And maybe remember back to our first class and what that felt like the first time that you did it compared to now. Is it something that you think about when you're in line at the grocery store or, or cooking dinner? Okay, so we're gonna bring our attention back down to our feet and we're gonna scrunch our toes. Like you're trying to scrunch up your yoga mat, or you're trying to like pull something towards you. Good. And then we're gonna let the toes relax. Now, I'm gonna come a little bit closer, see if you can see. Maybe I don't have my screen tilted enough. Okay, we're gonna try this, and this is gonna be for fun. So see if you can keep all your toes on the floor, but lift just the big toes. And then we're gonna bring the big toes down. Keep the big toes down, but lift your small toes, all the rest of the toes. And alternate moving big toes and the rest of your toes. And if that's really easy, what if you can keep your big toes and your baby toes down and just lift the toes in the middle? I know that's a lot harder. I'm not quite sure how well I can. One side's a little bit easier. Notice if you have a tendency to kind of start to tense up through your hands or your shoulders as you try to explore your feet. It's pretty interesting, hey? We can kind of pull out kind of neat little things when we really, really focus on, say, like movement of our feet. What's happening up top? Are we clenching our jaw? Are we clenching our hands or our shoulders? And that might have implications for other movements that we do as well. Okay, let's give our feet a little break. Actually, no, I lied. We're not going to give our feet a little break. We're going to step one leg back, and you can hold on to a chair or onto a wall, and we're going to circle the ankle. So keep circling. Oh, somebody's told me a wizardry. Yeah, right? Okay, and we'll switch directions. Okay, come back to 3 points of the feet. We're going to shift the weight into the other leg, take the foot back, and circle the ankle. So not only are we circling the ankle, but we're getting a little bit of movement in our hip socket as well, and the other way. And we're working on balance, which means we're working on core. There's all kinds of stuff going on right now. Even though we think we're just doing a simple movement, it's not always so simple. Okay, now let's come back to standing in our mountain pose, 3 points of the feet. Have a little bit of space behind you, and let's shift the weight into the left leg and take a step back with the right. So I'm going to keep my heel lifted, bend the left knee and the back leg straight. I'm going to press my heel back. If it feels better to drop the heel down, or you can even bring your feet a little bit wider with the back heel down. So you decide. And if you kind of lose your balance, you can always reset and just do a slightly smaller step back. So the right heel presses back if it's lifted, and the left knee is bent. And let's bring the left hand to the side of the thigh and press the leg and hand together. So you can really, really feel that whole left leg. Feel the center of your heel, the base of the big toe, base of the baby toe. Lots of awareness in that front leg. And then let's bring the right hand to the side of our head, or just on the back of your head. And we're gently going to go into a side bend. So you can keep pressing your left hand and your left leg together if you'd like. Easy breath in and out through your nose. And if you want a little bit more, you can bring that right arm up into the air. Good. And then we're going to come back. And then bring your arms into a cactus arm. Let's explore a twist. Turning your chest to the left, but keep your elbows lined up with your shoulders. So we're not using our arms to rotate, but now we're moving through our ribs. Take a few breaths. Maybe sense your rib cage expanding as you breathe in. Two more full breaths. And then let's rotate back to center. Let the arms come down. With control, step the right leg forward. Now we're going to shift the weight into the right leg and the right foot. And with control, let's take the left leg back, either on the ball of the foot or bring the leg slightly forward and bring the heel down. Press the left heel back. The right knee is bent. And now press the right thigh into the right hand. Feel the center of the front heel, the base of the big toe, and the base of the baby toe. And then we can bring the left hand to the side of the head and just go slow into your side bend so you don't lose the support of the legs that's keeping you balanced. Only go as far as you can still breathe with ease. Pressing the hand and leg together will help with the balance. And if you want a little bit more, you can bring the left arm up. And then we'll slowly come back to center and bring the arms up, elbows bent. Keep the elbows lined up with the shoulders as you rotate from the ribs. Breathing fully into the rib cage. And then back to center. You can let the arms come down and with control step forward. Good. Okay, we're going to give the arms a little break and I'm going to come forward, but you can stay standing if you want, or you can come sit down, whatever you want. We're going to do a little bit of shoulder work before we come back and work on our hips a little bit more. So let's try, which one do I want to do? Let's bring the left arm forward and then you're going to bend the elbow and use your other hand on the outside of your arm to gently draw it across. So just enjoy a really, really gentle stretch here. If the shoulder's really coming up high towards the ear, or if you're doing a little side bend, I just come back and reset. Just go a little bit smaller. It doesn't have to be an intense stretch sensation. I'm not really feeling much, but I know that there's still stuff going on here. So now we're going to add a rotation, rotating the arm up. So the arm might kind of naturally on its own just kind of come out a little bit more, just so it's easier to move. So see if you can get a sense of what it feels like to move the upper arm. So the elbow should kind of stay at the same height. Okay, so the next time the arm comes up, pause there, and then bring your other hand to the outside of your arm again, and press the arm and hand together. So just creating a little bit of resistance. Notice your breath. Are you holding your breath? Good. And then we can bring the arm back down and release. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So this time we're going to bend the right elbow and use the left hand to gently draw it across. And if you're someone who operates at 150% or 200% all the time, what happens if you just go at 100, right? What if you just kind of give yourself a little bit more room to breathe? You can still, accomplish a lot without having to kill yourself and go crazy over it, right? Sometimes we have to show ourselves a little bit of kindness, or let ourselves off the hook a little bit. Okay, let's rotate the arm up and down. So getting a sense of arm bone, moving a shoulder socket. What sensations do you notice as you do this? Maybe it feels better just to go in a smaller range. Okay, so whatever your range is, we'll rotate up and hold, and then press the arm and hand together. Good, take a couple more breaths. And then you can release and give your arm a little shake if you want to do blades up and down a few more times. See what that feels like. And then, when you're ready, we're going to come back up to standing. And you might like to situate yourself with a chair or a wall in front of you, because we are going to do a balancing pose. Actually, no, we're going to do that in a moment. We're going to do one more before that. It'll be a nice little prep. So if you don't want to do the second one, you can do this one twice. Okay. So make sure you have a little bit of space on either side of you. And we'll start in our mountain pose, feet hip distance apart, feeling into the 3 points of the feet. Take a moment, check in with your breath. And then we're going to shift the weight into your left leg. So from your hip, down the leg, into the foot. So there's really isn't any weight left in that right leg. So we're just going to slide it out to the side and just stay on your toes. So it's kind of like a kickstand. It's not really holding any weight, but it's just there for a little bit of extra support. And then if you feel like you need a chair or a wall, that's always an option as well. But what we want to do is hinge from our hips to come forward and then back up. So what I want you to make sure is you're not rounding your back. Okay, so our spine stays neutral, whatever the upright position is, but the movement's coming from your hip crease. So it's the pelvis that's tilting, that's initiating the movement, and the position of the spine doesn't change. And so it doesn't need to be a big movement. But as you come up on that standing leg, you're using the back of your thigh and your bum to draw you back up. Okay, again, it doesn't have to be a big movement. Think like centimeters even. And then using the back of the leg and the bum to draw you back up. So if you're a runner, this could be a really nice one for you. So I'm going to add on a couple other little ideas that I want to share. So it's not just, doing the shape or doing the movement, but I want you to pay attention what happens with your knee and your ankle as you hinge. Sometimes what could happen is the ankle rolls in or the knee draws in. You can kind of have something a little wonky going on. I would come back up and then go really slowly and only go as far as that wonky thing doesn't happen, right? As long as your ankle and your knee stay stable the whole time. So that's how we can adapt and develop strength and connection between our pelvis, our knee, and our ankle. Okay, so let's come back, both feet on the floor, and we'll switch sides. So we're going to take the weight now into the right leg, and our left foot comes out to the side like a kickstand. We're keeping a neutral spine, so sometimes having a hand on the back can be helpful, or on your hips. And we're going to explore hinging forward on this side. So you might think of tailbone lifting to bring you forward, and then let's use the back of the leg and your bum to draw you back up. So explore this one. Notice what happens with your ankle and your knee. And there's lots of other ways that we can make this practice more challenging, but this is a really good place to start. Okay, let's do a couple more. And then we'll come back to standing. So I'm going to demo really quickly the next one we're going to try, and if you're like, oop, that one's not for me, you'll just repeat the same one again. Okay, so I'm going to start with a chair in front of me. And so the practice is going to be bringing one ankle onto the opposite knee in a figure 4. Now, if in order to get there, if you really have to hike your hip up, right, so you're getting shorter on one side, or you got to pull it up there and you're just kind of like all over the place, I would just come back and do this one for now. But if you can kind of hold on to a chair and you can keep your hips relatively level and bring your ankle onto the knee, then you can do this one. And so it's going to be similar. We're going to hinge at the hip just like we did in the previous neutral spine, and then coming back up. But in addition to the hip, we're also bending the knee, bending the hip and bending the knee. So this is going to really get into the outer right hip if you've got the right leg up. And the chair is just there for extra support. So play with this. Can you feel your hip crease angle decreasing as you bend? And are you able to move through your knee and your hip at the same pace? And we're also working through the ankle down there as well. So you might notice, is the ankle dropping in? Is your foot lifting? Like, are you rolling out? And notice all the little things that go a little bit wonky. And that might mean slowing down and stopping before that happens. So it's easier to gain control in a smaller range than it is in a bigger range, or to go in a bigger range and then have to like recorrect yourself. We're not gaining anything by doing that. And if it feels okay as you come down, maybe hold it for a few breaths. I'm really feeling my left butt, right? I'm standing my left leg. My left hip's really working. I'm still breathing with ease. If you find that you're holding your breath, that might mean that you need to dial back your intensity a little bit. All right, when you've had enough, come on up, release the leg. And then we'll set up the same way on the other side. So we're going to shift the weight. Try to keep your hips level as you bend the knee. The leg rotates and the ankle comes onto the leg. So you can do this in the middle of a room, holding onto a wall or holding onto a chair. So just spend the first couple times as you hinge and bend your knee. How is the ankle responding? How is the knee responding? And then you might refine further. Is the back rounding? Is the hip really going out to the side? What little things can be refined? Is the head pushing forward? That's a really common one. We'll try to go forward by moving through our head, but let's see if we can. Oop. Keep breathing. Good. And then after you've kind of done a few, hold it for a few breaths. This can you can do this with like older adults as well, but without having the knee up, just keeping both feet down and maybe holding onto like the edge of a sink or something, and just practice hinging at the hips, knees, and ankles. And that will help with leg strength. Cool. Okay. Let's give our legs a little break. We started at 2. Oh my goodness, time is just flying when we're having fun. Let's come down now onto hands and knees. So we can give our legs a little break. But let's place the knees under the hips and wrists under the shoulders so the hands aren't too far forward. And you can look down between the fingertips. Take a couple breaths and soften. Maybe let your belly relax towards the floor. Know that you can always sit back and give your wrists a break at any time. Let's see if we can tilt your pelvis forward and back. So we're not quite doing a cat-cow. And we don't want to initiate through the low back, but we want to get the pelvis, those sitting bones lifting, tailbone drawing down, or maybe think of tailbone lifting and then the pubic bone drawing up towards the belly button. So again, this isn't one of those big movements, but we want to get a sense that our pelvis can move around the leg bones without the legs moving. And then kind of once you start to get a sense of that, can we bring that into a full cat-cow? So we're gonna lift the tailbone and then go segment by segment through the spine. So through the low back, and then through the mid back, and then the upper back, and the neck, and then the head comes up. And then we'll reverse from the pelvis. So now, pubic bone towards the belly button, moving through the low back, the mid back, the upper back, the neck, and then the head. So keep starting at the pelvis, move segment by segment. Keep breathing in and out through your nose. So you can decide how fast or slow you go. The slower you go, the more you can feel. And it might feel like parts of your back don't really go segment by segment. It might be chunk by chunk. And that's okay. That just gives us information about maybe where there are some limitations or tight areas that we need to work on. And then let's do a couple more. All right, if you need to sit back, give your wrists a little break. And then I'm going to take you through one of my favorite side bends. There's a little bit of setup, but I find that it's really, really, really nice. So we're going to start from a tabletop. And then slide your right arm forward and maybe a little bit towards the center. And then we're going to come down onto the left forearm. So your elbow's at the edge of your mat and your palm turns in. And then let your forehead come down to rest on your left wrist or your left hand. And that might mean that your right arm has to come out to the side a little bit, but try to keep that right arm straight and the elbow lifted. Now, keeping your hips over your knees, you're going to start to press your right armpit, your right side ribs, and your right waist towards the right side of the room. So this whole side of your body is getting a little bit longer. This is where we're getting the side stretch. The shoulders are still level. Let's hold for a couple breaths. And then we'll come back and come up. And we can set up. I'm eating my hair. We'll set up the same thing on the other side. So this time the left arm comes forward. And we come down into the right forearm, elbows out to the side, and the palm turns in. Let the forehead come down to rest. And keep the hips over the knees as you press out through your left armpit, your left side ribs, and your left side waist. Beautiful. We're going to come back to center and come back up onto hands and knees. Now, if you have a block, you can use a block for the next one. If you don't have a block, doesn't matter. I'll show you how to do it without a block. So we're going to start in tabletop. If you do not have a block, bring your right hand either to the side of your head or the back of your head. If you have a block, you can hold the block to the side of your head right by your ear. I'm realizing it doesn't really work with headphones on. Anyways, we'll try our best. So your elbows out to the side. And then we're going to turn the rib cage so your breastbone is turning towards the right, but we're not turning the hips. And then we're going to turn all the way the other way, bringing the right elbow towards the left wrist. And then we're going to come back to the start. And then we're going to turn the ribs to the right. And then bringing the right elbow towards the left wrist. Let's try this a couple times. So we're turning the torso, the rib cage, around the arm, keeping the hips and the legs fixed and the left arm fixed. Good. So after you've done 4 or 5, let's switch sides. So then your hand comes to, I'll do this one without the block because that was really awkward. So this time we'll bring the left hand up either on the block or the side of the head. And we're going to rotate the rib cage to the left. And then rotating the ribs back the other way, bringing the left elbow towards the right wrist. And this doesn't have to be a fast movement. We're trying to keep your pelvis and your legs quiet. Elbow to wrist. Center, so you're aware of how much the rib cage rotates to the left, and then left elbow to the right wrist. And if you're still with me, let's do one more. Good. Alrighty. From here, let's come right down onto our bellies. And you can make a little pillow for your hands and rest your forehead. And see how it feels to bring your legs maybe a little bit further apart. Let's just settle here for a moment. Let your belly soften into the floor. If it feels uncomfortable having your elbows bent like this, you can bring your arms down by your side or one arm down by your side. And then you're going to imagine that somebody's placed their hand across your waistband, so across your low back, and they're moving their hand side to side so your bum starts to rock, side to side. So I call this bottom rocking. This is one type of rhythmic movement that can be really calming and soothing. And if you're having a hard time connecting to the rhythm of this movement, it could be helpful to sing row, row, row your boat in your head. You don't have to sing it out loud, just to help you kind of connect with the rhythm of the hips rocking side to side. Know that you can stop this movement anytime, and if it feels good, just keep going. It's okay if the legs are moving. You're just not initiating the movement. So if you're ever in a situation where your body feels really energized, or feel really wired, or feel like you can't fall asleep, you take a couple minutes and do this. It can kind of help bring the energy level down. If you've got kids, you can manually do this to your kids. So bring your hand across their waistband and just gently rock them side to side. And let's just come into stillness for a moment and notice what you notice. So you might choose to repeat that one again, or you can see what it feels like to come up onto your forearms and then tuck your toes under. And you're going to use your toes to rock your body forward and back. And so you can use a little song, row, row, row your boat, help find the rhythm. This one can be challenging sometimes. It might feel like the movement's really jerky, or the movement might feel like it kind of gets stuck in a certain part of your body and it doesn't kind of go all the way through. And if that's the case, just notice what is or isn't happening. What happens if you use less force? And you feel like, no, this one's not right for me, just come back down and do the bottom rocking.
I'm rocking. Hi.
So you can either keep
Hi.
doing this one. Oh, I hear somebody's dog in the background. There we go.
You go with mommy? Do yoga.
So you can either keep doing that rocking one, or you can do the bottom rocking. I'm just going to see who's not on mute. Sounds like somebody has a delightful puppy, but I don't know who it is. Oh, maybe there. Okay. Okay, so whether you're rocking on your forearms with your toes, or your head is down and you're rocking the head side to side, let's stay with one or the other for about 20 more seconds. And then we'll come into stillness. And then when you're ready, rolling over onto your back. And you can either keep the knees bent with the feet on the floor, or you can slide the legs all the way down. But maybe bringing your hands onto the side of your ribs. And then start to sense your inhale coming into your rib cage. Sensing the back of the ribs moving down into the floor. The front of the rib cage moving up into your hand. And the sides of the rib cage moving out to the side. So essentially your rib cage is expanding 360 degrees as you inhale, and releasing, softening as you exhale. Just take a few more breaths in the same way. And then you can let your arms come down by your side. If there's any other little adjustments or movements that you'd like to take to make yourself more comfortable, we'll spend the next few minutes, next 7 or 8 minutes, a guided relaxation for Shavasana. So you don't need to hold yourself in any particular way. You don't need to breathe in any particular way. Just let everything start to soften and fall away. And feel the weight of your body resting on the surface beneath you. Maybe even imagining the ground or the furniture coming up to support the weight of your body. Notice the sensation of fabric against skin and air against exposed skin. Soften your belly. And then begin to notice sensation in the palm of your hands. Sensing the palms. Sensing your index fingers. Your middle fingers. Your ring fingers. Your pinky fingers. And your thumbs. Feeling the whole of both hands. Sense your wrists, forearms, elbows, upper arms, and shoulders. Sense your jaw, your chin, lips, the roof of your mouth, the inside of the cheeks, and your tongue. Sense the whole inside of your mouth all at once. Sense the air coming in and out of your right nostril, your left nostril, and both nostrils together. Feel your whole nose, the outer architecture of your ears, earlobes, and folds of the upper ears, ear canals, and eardrums. Sense the whole of both ears. The front of your eyes, and the back of the eyes. And the muscles in and around your eyes. Inner corners of the eyes. Eyebrows. Forehead. The sides of your scalp. Back of your scalp. And the crown. Feel your whole head at once. Sensing your whole head inside and out. Sense the back of your neck, the sides of your neck, and your throat. Feel your whole body from head to toe. And gently aware of your body breathing itself without any effort from you. Aware of each breath coming and going.